scripture from today are two brief passages from the Apostle Paul to the early church. We trust that he still has something to say today that even we need to hear. I'll be reading words in yellow and invite you to read aloud those in white. First reading from 2 Corinthians. So from now on, we regard no one from a worldly point of view. Though we once regarded Christ in this way, we do so no longer.
Therefore, if anyone is in Christ, the new creation has come. The old has gone, the new is here.
All this is from God, who reconciled us to himself through Christ and gave us the ministry of reconciliation. The second passage comes to us from Paul's letter to the Galatians in chapter 6. May I never boast except in the cross of our Lord Jesus Christ, through which the world has been crucified to me and I to the world.
Neither circumcision nor uncircumcision means anything. What counts is the new creation.
Peace and mercy to all who follow this rule, to the Israel of God. The one rule, that all things are new, that we are new creations. It's such a simple little phrase. And yet, I still ask myself, and I ask you, what's new? What is Paul really telling us here? He comes from a very long-standing sacred faith tradition. In the days of Jesus, Paul's faith could trace its history back further than we can trace Christianity even today. It wasn't just some run-of-the-mill, insignificant little cult or philosophy. A long-standing tradition with a deep heritage and people extraordinarily devoted. And Paul was certainly among them, extraordinarily devoted. So sure that what he had been taught was true, that he was willing to kill to defend that truth. And while Christianity has certainly had its stages and more than enough personalities through the centuries who were in Paul's place and willing to kill for the purity of faith, willing to kill for the sake of God, it's something that we have drifted away from. Thank God. But he was still there, so confident in the old ways, in the old beliefs, in the old path to God, because he was confident at work. He was confident that the future of his people depended upon hanging on to the one truth, the one way that he'd been taught, that he had taught, that he practiced, and that he felt his life and the life of his people depended on. I want to suggest to you that no matter how devout and devout you may be, you weren't in Paul's league. It was so much a part of who he was. And it's only by knowing where he came that you can appreciate where he moved to. By the time he had had his experience on the Damascus Road, by the time he had had his experience with real people in the real mission field, by the time he had had his experience with his colleagues and trusted companions in faith, all of them let him down. By the time he had helped give birth to congregations of Christians in Turkey and Greece, by the time he had written letters back to those congregations to help encourage and to sometimes correct and remind them of his teachings. Prior to the stoning of Stephen, prior to his trip on the road to Damascus, Paul would have seen anything new as a threat to the old, to the established, to the traditional, to what he would have sworn his life on was the one and only truth. Now, with the same kind of fervor, and after expressing even more commitment, making even greater sacrifices, even putting his life more surely on the line, now he assures the people in Corinth and the people in Galatia, and through his letters, the people in Washington, that the new is the only thing that matters. The old has no place. Surely he can't be talking to us, because we know the truth, and we're confident in our ways, and we're solid in our beliefs, and we're devout in our commitment. Surely, who we are and what we stand for and how we behave is the right way to be. Surely there's nothing new under the sun for us. What is new? What is he talking about? To the Galatians, he's clear. He's fighting a very specific battle there, where others have come in just as devout, just as passionate, just as convinced they were right as Paul is convinced he is right, saying that most of what our brother Paul taught you is fine, but let's not forget that there are requirements to being included in the family of God, qualifications in order to be among those who are saved. Particular circumcision for the males, certain other rules and regulations of behavior that are only appropriate for good people. And Paul, adamant in saying, we're not going to go down that path. Because you know what happens when you start putting restrictions and limitations and qualifications is that it never stops. There's always another. Oh, by the way, you also have to think this way. You also have to behave this way, or be sure not to behave that way. You can look at the Judaism of Paul's day and see the extent to which the oh by the way rules just kept coming and coming. Oh, by the way, you can't heal on the Sabbath. Oh, by the way, you can't pick up your mat and carry it across town on the Sabbath. Oh, by the way, you can't walk through a grain field and pluck grain from the heads of the wheat as you're walking through on the Sabbath. What? We have to make sure you don't work on the Sabbath, and so we are protecting you and protecting the heritage by defining very clearly and specifically the rules of salvation. You don't have to look very far in 21st century Christianity to see the extent to which people keep embellishing the rules, the expectations, and keep drawing new lines. Within a new faith that seems to be telling us to quit drawing lines at all, there are still so very, 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 very many of them. What's new? This notion that it's time to quit drawing lines? That maybe our faith tradition doesn't need to be protected? That maybe God doesn't need to be protected? What's new? To just live in the spirit of forgiveness? To just be inspired by the grace that was so extraordinary that it included even you? To come to the awareness that that grace that was so extraordinary included you also includes anybody you know, everybody you've ever heard of. We're going too far. Whoa, there's got to be lines. What's new? The concept that if there are lines, there are lines for God to draw and not for us. No, 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 no. I don't like that. I want to draw my own lines. I get upset when people color outside the lines. I have to see everything orderly, controlled. By the way, I'm going to have a vote. What's new? Think about the new things in life, particularly a newborn child. Traditionally, right, usually, typically, a newborn child within moments of birth is crying. If they aren't doing it on their own, we induce them to cry. It's good for their lungs. It's a reassuring sound for a parent to hear the baby crying after birth. And it's terrifying when there's only silence. It doesn't take very long before the newness wears off and all we want is silence again. Quiet that baby somehow. Do whatever it takes to quiet that baby. Teach that toddler to quit asking questions. Rebuke that child for saying no. Censor that teenager for what seem to be controversial and disrespectful comments. We enter life not to bring peace, but to bring chaos. As a newborn, we change the status quo. We alter everybody's schedule. And though it may sometimes take adults a while to figure it out, we are there to change everybody's priorities, to teach everybody a little bit more about love. I'm going to throw a fit and I expect you to love me. And I'm 60 years old. Because it doesn't stop with the infant. It doesn't stop with the toddler the teenager, the 20-something or the 30-something. We are here to disrupt the status quo. We are new. We are fresh. We are a challenge. We bring people the opportunity to learn how to love even us. The world works really hard to bring that new life into conformity. Smooth off the edges. Let's train the behavior. Let's teach them what to say and how to behave so they fit in with our norms. And those who refuse, those who stand up and still are heard, are chastised, are abused, are beaten, are minimalized, are externalized, exterminated. We don't want something new. We want the new to conform to our normal. Life does it to us over and over and over again. And when a new generation or members of a new generation or a new social movement or a new philosophy emerges that just doesn't want to play the game right and conform to the old and the established and the traditional, we go nuts. You can essentially watch today's 24-hour news network, and every day you can find something that just upsets you crazy. Because it's a new idea, it's a new way of thinking, it's breaking with tradition, it's requiring me to think again, it's asking me to be more tolerant, it's inviting me to see life from a new perspective. It's something that some of us never liked. Many of us enjoyed when we were young, and a lot of us just have difficulty with as we age. I'm tired of thinking. I'm as tolerant as I want to be. It hurts to think in new ways and to become more tolerant and to be more gracious. It hurts to grow in our treatment of others, in our attitude toward others. It hurts to let go of the old. But as far as I can see, when Jesus invited us to follow him, there were two other duties alongside it. He says, I'm going to pick up and carry my cross. You're going to have to pick up and carry your cross. He says, I have not come to bring peace, but a sword. You're going to have to decide when it's time to pick up the sword. When it's time to stand up and say, this is enough. I cannot stand this injustice anymore. This is enough. We cannot accept this intolerance anymore. This is enough. We cannot allow this bigotry anymore. This is enough. I will stand and be heard, and I will challenge the status quo, and I will challenge the powers that be, and I will say, this is enough. All God's creatures are precious in God's eyes. All God's creatures are created equally. I insist that we treat them equally, regardless of their social status, their racial status, their gender status, their sexuality, their immigration status, their legal status. All God's children will be cherished. I'll pick up my sword and I will be heard. It's something new to stand for the oppressed, to stand and be heard for the weak, to stand and be on the side of the poor, to stand alongside in solidarity with those that our tradition says are immoral and unforgivable. The sword's a metaphor, but it's a good one. Because you're standing up in opposition to beliefs and traditions and old ways that people are passionate about. And they're not going to let go of it easily. It's something new for the people of God to be so passionate about others. To cherish people more than rules, and more than traditions, and more than qualifications. And that something new has been moving through humanity, sometimes very slowly, sometimes not very far, but it still keeps moving. And it's our calling to at least try to keep up with it. And occasionally to pick it up and carry it the next step. Something new. May God help us in this new thing. Let us pray. Gracious God, we're mindful that in the world with all of its lists of who is right and who is good and who is holy and who is acceptable, that we, each one of us, would find lists that we're not on, that others draw lines that would exclude us. And we confess that we have struggled all our lives with drawing those same kinds of lines. And we struggle yet today in learning how to be accepting of all your children and celebrating the great diversity of humanity. But you have started something new that was always part of you. And it continues to move and to grow and to shape us. And as it grows, it still runs into adversity, it still runs into chaos, it still runs into those who are fighting with all of their life and all of their being against it. So give us courage and give us wisdom to know when to stand up and when to be heard and what to do, so that we can be counted among